Good evening, Unalaska. Welcome once again to Where We Are. I'm Tim Perry.
I'm Mary Ann Neese, substituting for Marilyn Rasmussen.
We have some hot news items this evening, the least of which is not a news story on the Aleut reparations going on right now, and some dynamite footage of the Morris Creek blasting. The IBU went out there and blew up part of the beach to open up the creek to the ocean.
And we have an interview on the Greenpeace boat, as well as a story on the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Volunteer Banquet.
Hot dog. So let's dig right in. We're going to start out with the Aleut reparations story. On June 16th, the World War II Commission gave recommendations to the United States Congress relating to the Aleuts' relocation and internment during World War II. The 5 recommendations are as follows. Number 1, Congress should establish a fund for the beneficial use of the Aleuts in the amount of $5 million. The principal and interest of the fund should be spent for community and individual purposes which would be compensatory for the losses and injuries Aleuts suffered as a result of the evacuation. Number 2, each of the few hundred surviving Aleuts evacuated during World War II should be paid $5,000 each. Number 3, the Commission then recommended that Congress appropriate funds and direct the rebuilding and restoration of churches damaged or destroyed in the course of the war. They felt preference in employment in those projects should be given to Aleuts. Number 4, it was recommended that Congress appropriate funds through the public working budget for the Army Corps of Engineers to clear away the debris that remains from World War II in and around populated areas of the Aleutian Islands. And finally, number 5, it was recommended that Congress declare Attu to be native land and that the island be conveyed to the Aleuts through the Native Corporation. This would be upon condition that the Native Corporation is able to negotiate an agreement with the Coast Guard, which would allow that service to continue essential functions on that island.
These recommendations were made by World War II commissions, were brought about after they studied all the facts of the wartime move. They found that the evacuation of Aleuts was a rational measure taken to safeguard them. However, approximately 900 Aleuts suffered. Approximately 90 died during the 2 to 3 years they spent in the camps. Housing, sanitation, and eating conditions in most camps were deplorable. Medical care was inadequate. Illness and disease were widespread. On returning to the villages, the evacuees found many houses and churches had been vandalized by the U.S. military. According to the Commission, the Fifth Amendment commands the government to compensate for property that it takes, and full compensation has not been made. No effective system of records exists by which to estimate the Aleut property losses. They feel a claims procedure would not be an effective method of compensation. They are basing their decision on testimony and evidence before them. No final decision has been made by the Congress yet.
The main bridge between Unalaska Island and Unangax Island will be closed this coming Monday and Tuesday. Be sure that you make arrangements to get around that obstacle. No mention has been made so far that we've been informed of to make a ferry system available to ferry people back and forth between Dutch Harbor and Unalaska. If you have any questions regarding transportation this Monday and Tuesday, I'd get a hold of City Hall and see if they're planning something. Once again, the main bridge, the big bridge between Unalaska Island and Unangax Island is going to be closed for some fixing up on Monday and Tuesday this coming. The Robert Resoff, a large processing vessel that's usually moored out here near the Spit, suffered minor damage after collision with the Korean vessel, the Sunflower, this past week. At the time of the incident, the Resoff was near Unangax Island in the Bristol Bay. The Sunflower sustained damage including a 15-foot by 6-foot hole in the hull. It was a calm, clear day, and it was uncertain why the collision took place, although speculation is that the wheelhouse on board the Korean vessel was empty.
And a 60-foot launch Belvedere has been in port this week for a voyage repair. They will be here another week in order to continue up the western coast of Alaska. The Belvedere crew is researching sites where old-time whaling vessels sank and are charting them for historical purposes. They work for a whaling institute out of Bedford, Massachusetts, and this is a sabbatical for the captain. And speaking of whales and boats, the Greenpeace boat was here in our waters this week, and we have Gail Tharp to give an interview.
We're here on the Greenpeace vessel, the Rainbow Warrior, today with Louis Barreto to talk about the present campaign they're on. I understand that you have two goals this time, one to do with the Japanese netters and one with the Russian whalers. Can you tell us some about that?
Yeah, we've got two campaigns in the making. The first campaign involves gillfish netting in the Aleutian Island area. The Japanese fisheries are using 9-mile-long monofilament nets to fish for salmon. Unfortunately, in the nets, we're getting caught Dall's porpoise, sea lions, seals, and birds. They're getting caught in the net. Well, the porpoise can't feel the net with the sonar system they have, and they inadvertently get caught and drown because they're air-breathing mammals. The seals just basically don't know any better. They go after the fish that's in the net and get tangled as well. And the birds dive for fish that are caught in the net, and they become entangled as well. So we're out here urging the Japanese fisheries, first of all, to change their equipment around and modify it so that they can put plastic tubes inside the net itself so that it can give the sonar system something to bounce off so that the porpoise can see the net basically, or hear it. They did do some testing. The Japanese Fisheries Department did testing on this method of augmenting the netting, and they found a 50% reduction in the kill of porpoise, and we feel that that's a significant reduction when you figure that they have a quota of 5,000 porpoise per vessel, have 140 vessels roughly. That's a lot of porpoise.
Yeah. That's
so
substantial.
Hopefully, you know, what we want to do is urge these people to change their modify their nets and cut down on the mammal kill. We'd actually like to see the Japanese quit the strip mining of the ocean with these 9-mile-long nets, but unfortunately, I think that's going to be a battle that's going to have to be fought on a governmental level between the U.S. and the Japanese, since the Japanese are getting license from the U.S. government.
So on the Japanese, it's mainly you're going to give them a verbal confrontation of what you feel they can do to improve it. What about the Russians with the whaling? What do you intend to do with that campaign?
Well, that campaign basically is I have a very broad outline as to what we intend to do. They're killing gray whales off or in the Bering Straits and the Bering Sea, and what we'd like to do is confront the Russian whalers in Russian waters and urge them to withdraw their objection to the moratorium for whaling, which was passed a couple of years ago through efforts from Greenpeace, I might add. And what we'd like to do is see them withdraw the rejection, which they've submitted to the IWC, the Whaling Commission. They've objected to the moratorium and say they plan to continue whaling after 1986. We'd like to have them withdraw that objection, quit whaling altogether, because basically what they're using this whale meat for is to feed mink farms. And you know, you're wasting an incredible mammal to feed other little mammals, to kill them to make mink coats. You know, I mean, the whole thing is just totally ludicrous. It's ridiculous, and there has to be other means of feeding these animals and saving, you know, the few whales we've got left on this earth.
Have you done this kind of campaign in Russian waters before?
No, this is the first time we've actually are going to enter Russian waters and confront the Russians in their own territory.
Isn't that a little scary?
Well, not really. You know, we've got some international press on board. We've got excellent TV coverage, and we feel we've got enough backing on a worldwide level to more or less check whatever things that they plan on doing. You know, it has to be done. I see, you know, it must be done. And the other methods we've tried just don't work. This is really the only method that brings attention to the problem and allows us to let the people around the world see what's going on.
So among a lot of issues, strip fishing is another issue that you're really concerned about.
Yeah, the strip mining is ridiculous. I mean, that's what I like to call it. We call it here. You know, a 9-mile net is a lot of net, and you're catching a lot of salmon. You know, salmon bound for the United States, no less. And you know, the whole thing behind that is geopolitical. Really, it's not fair to the fish. It's not fair to the fishermen here in Alaska, for sure. And you know, we've got to start conserving our resources. We're not against fishing by any means. I mean, fishing is a good form of nutrition, you know, feeding the populace. But 9-mile nets, I mean, that's, you know, 140 9-mile nets set in one night. That's a lot of fish.
I know Greenpeace has a lot of things that they feel are important on sea mammals commercially and that kind of thing. What about subsistence whaling and subsistence fishing for seal and that kind of thing? What is the stance that Greenpeace takes on that issue?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Well, it's an issue that Greenpeace has had a difficult time trying to outline or actually put a definition on. You know, we definitely feel that mammals that are at the point of extinction shouldn't be hunted by anybody, and there must be other methods of feeding people besides killing whales. However, there are things that have to be understood about Aboriginal hunts. And, you know, beyond that, I really don't want to make a statement on behalf of Greenpeace because it's such a tough issue. I mean, you're talking about people's lives, you know. You're not talking about feeding mink or feeding Japanese wealthy people with whale steaks. You know, we're talking about people that are supposedly very hungry. So it's a tough issue, and you know, it's one of those gray areas.
Do you have anything you want to add? I can't think of anything that we might be able to use.
Yeah, you know, I did want to explain, I think, for people that don't know what Greenpeace is all about, you know, it's not just mammal protection, and it's not, you know, whales and seals. It's a lot of other things, too. You know, we deal with nuclear armament, nuclear disarmament, and a lot of other issues. You know, we're here to try and save the Earth, and we're going to do our best effort. I do want to say also that we've enjoyed our stay at Dutch Harbor, or Unalaska, and the people have been great.
One other question I did
Yeah.
want to ask you, a kind of interesting thing I heard. Can you tell us a little bit about the story of how this vessel got its name, the Rainbow Warrior?
Oh, sure. The Rainbow Warrior, there's a Indian legend in Canada. The Siskiyou, no, I can't think of the name of the Indians, that had this legend that warriors would come from the rainbow when man was destroying all the mammals on the earth. They would come down from the rainbow and fight off the men and save the mammals. And when the Indians found out that we were going out on our first whale campaign, they donated us a little artwork and said we could use the legend as part of our name for the Rainbow Warrior.
So all that magnificent artwork on the front and the back of the ship is from their interpretation.
Right.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you very much for spending this time with
Sure,
us, and
no
we've
problem.
enjoyed having you here in Fort.
Good. I just want to thank everybody in Unalaska for a really good time and a beautiful, beautiful place.
Thanks, Gail. Parks, Culture, and Recreation just celebrated their annual Volunteers Banquet on Thursday night to honor those who have volunteered their time in the past year. Awards were given to citizens for outstanding community participation, and 3 major organizations were recognized as well. The Aleutian Arts Council for providing cultural entertainment to the community on a continual basis. The Lions Club for consistent participation in all community functions. And the Advisory Committee of Parks, Culture, and Recreation, a group of citizens representing different organizations of the community who recommend activities and events to the community. The banquet was well attended, and in the year of city budget cuts, volunteers came through again by bringing potluck delicacies. Special thanks to Unalaska also for donating food.
From Juneau, we have a legislative update. At the request of fishing groups statewide, House Bill 381 was transmitted to Governor Sheffield on June 17th. The bill was considered to be a step away from prolonged salmon price strikes and towards early responsible price settlements. As passed, the salmon wholesale price bill contains 2 primary sections. Section 1, a procedure is set up for the Department of Revenue to collect wholesale canned salmon prices from processors. And Part 2, a study is outlined which will determine the feasibility of the state collecting wholesale prices for all product forms of salmon.
And during the 1980 Bristol Bay strike, it was pointed out at Fisheries Committee hearings that fishermen lost over $100 million in income, and the state of Alaska lost almost $4 million in raw fish taxes. Fishermen's associations have signed contracts with delayed settlements to fishermen. These delayed payments up to 10 months after the season, are to be based on the wholesale prices that salmon processors actually receive. These contracts are dependent on accurate information in order to aid negotiation both before and after the actual processor sales. This bill is vital to the credibility of their contracts. Fishermen have pointed out that the canned salmon is making up a smaller portion of the salmon processed every year, and processors are concerned that the large variety of product forms could lead to a burdensome and costly reporting requirement. For further information on this bill or any legislative affair, feel free to contact your local legislative affairs office by either coming into the office at the community center or by calling 581-1779. And what's the Fish and Game report, Tim?
We have a Fish and Game report. You know, that on the calendar anyway, it's summer. And summer is sport fishing time. And we all know that before you go sport fishing, you have to get your sport fishing license. And that's available at Carl's over here at in Unalaska or at the Alaska Commercial in Dutch Harbor. So get your sport fishing license before you go sport fishing. And while we're talking about sport fishing, just a reminder to remind you that the Town Creek is closed to all sport fishing, and it won't reopen again until the red salmon hopefully have gotten on by and are up into the spawning system in the lake, which we hope will be by July 20th when it again reopens for sport fishing. In the meantime, those of you who go after subsistence salmon for your winter stock, the subsistence salmon permits are available at the Department of Fish and Game over in Dutch Harbor at the Unicity Mall, and they are available, as usual, to residents only. When you come over to get your subsistence permit, make sure you bring some type of identification that identifies you as a resident of the state of Alaska. That includes voter registration. You bring your old tax forms or something like that, something that will show that you're a permanent resident of the state of Alaska. And finally, National Marine Fishery Biologists have started their summer surveys of king crab grounds up in the Bering Sea. Dr. Bob Otto and Pete Comiskey have left on the Bering Sea crabber Valiant, and they're bound for the Zemchunk Canyon northwest of the Pribilofs. And they're going to be doing some tagging up there before they head up to St. Matthew, the big St. Matthew blue king crab fishing grounds, and do some tagging up there of king crab. St. Matthew, as you might know, is our first big fishery to open up. Last year there were nearly 9 million pounds of blue king crab caught up there and processed up there. It's one of our fisheries like ADAC, where the crab is all processed away from town. And like I said, St. Matthew is opening August 20th. Speaking of fish and game, the Morse Creek has been blocked off at the terminus due to a storm that has built up sand on the beach, and the Inland Boatmen's Union was concerned that the fry and smolt from the lake weren't able to get back out, and the adult fish weren't able to get back in to spawn. So we have some footage right now of the Inland Boatmen's Union blasting away the beach.
Hi, I'm Dan Kondak with the Inland Boatmen's Union, and we decided to do this project because Fish and Game didn't have the funds, and we decided to go ahead on our own and volunteer our time.
Yeah, I'm Paul Foose, and what we're doing here is we're digging holes to put the explosives down into. We had to dig about 8 or 9 holes 4 feet long, 4 feet deep.
We had a lot of logs and debris in the way. We used Vern Jackson's truck and Mark Wells' three-wheeler to pull them out. We also had a lot of volunteer help from Glenn Boldovich of the Aleutian Eagle, Tim Perry of Fish and Game, and Melissa Owens.
Hey, just like in the ads, huh? Okay, here we're putting the charges together. That dynamite there is a real high strength. It's about 75% nitroglycerin dynamite. We have the holes dug here to get the charge down deep where it'll really work. And we'll cover it back up to give it good pressure so it'll dig a good deep hole. This green cord here is primacord. It's an explosive cord. It detonates at about 4 miles a second. Okay, now here comes the blast. Okay, you don't hear much noise from that. The reason is that the charges were confined and the wind was blowing in the other direction. You can see it blowing the debris away there, so we didn't get much concussion on that one.
Here's the creek flowing again. It blasted a channel about 6 feet deep.
This is still an ongoing project. Tim Perry of Fish and Game was out there just this last week helping some of the salmon fry out of the lake and down into the ocean.
Quite a few guys went out there and donated their time, and Paul and the gang donated at least 100 pounds of explosives for that. Now we're going to move on to the City Council, and they met Tuesday night and discussed the following items. The year-end budget amendment was passed, and this closes out the 82-83 fiscal year funds. In this way, income is balanced to the amount that was spent. Next, they affirmed the city manager's decision to appoint Arnie Erickson to the new city planner's position. Following that, the city council authorized the city to procure the services of Arthur Young and Company in order to audit the city's 1982-83 books. And then, moving right along, they discussed a new location for the boat harbor. Because of the poor location of the harbor where it is right now, they authorized the city to begin negotiations with Universal Seafoods for the possibility of moving the city dock to the Unicy Inn sub-bay site, which is right in front of the inn. And to finish off the evening, they completed the transfer of the liquor license to Stormy's new owners, Universal Seafoods.
And we have a message from the Department of Public Safety concerning out-of-state license. There are several vehicles on our islands with Washington plates, and you are asked to register your vehicle for current Alaskan plates. The law states that within 30 days of arrival, your vehicle must be registered. Another major concern of Chief Steele's is the amount of expired Washington plates on our roads. To avoid penalties, head over to the police department and bring your vehicle up to code. And of course, there are some of you with the expired Alaskan plates, and you are asked to please take care of them as well. Coming up in August, several board of directors seats will be opening for the clinic. The priorities of this group are fiscal management, medical, and administrative policies. They're looking for people not only genuinely interested in communities' health needs, but who have a desire to help. It is felt that this positive concern will reflect on the new policies. The clinic is also hoping to draw in those who will have no trouble speaking out and voicing opinions. Knowledge of management and/or medical procedures would be helpful, but not necessarily required. And if you're interested, either contact the City Council member City Council member or Cindy Galactianoff at 581-1202. At the clinic's open house on the 10th, their walking blood bank program was introduced to community members. And if you'd like to sign up, or if you'd like further information, please give Cindy a call at the clinic. Dr. Ott will be vacationing between mid-July and mid-August, and while away, Margaret Jacobson, a nurse practitioner, will be filling in.
From Patty Martin of Community Schools comes the following information. On Wednesdays and Fridays, there are children's dance classes now being offered. Between 5 and 6 p.m., Debbie Zafik will be teaching 3 to 7-year-olds, and from 6 to 7 p.m., she'll be teaching 8 to 12-year-olds. Debbie also teaches aerobics to adults, and these classes take place in the band room.
And the community schools now has an open library from 1 in the afternoon until 3, at which time there will be free films for kids to watch as well as swimming. Open swims have been discontinued on Sunday afternoons, but they have been replaced by a moonlight swim from 7 to 9 on Sunday evenings. The public swims on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and they've been pushed back a half hour as well.
And now it's my turn.
Okay.
Parents, now that summer vacation is upon us, swimming for children costs $1 per session. The second session for lessons will be starting on July 5th. This is for children and adults alike. Adults are encouraged to participate in the various activities being offered.
And the film this weekend at the Community Center is Cattle Annie, Little Britches, a Western starring Scott Glenn and John Savage, with special appearances by Rod Steiger and Burt Lancaster.
Sounds good.
See it Saturday 7:30 and Sunday at 8. And the University of Alaska is featuring speed reading again to start next Thursday. Actors and actresses and all who are interested in becoming actors and actresses, please try out for the play. The play to come, we think it will be Arsenic and Old Lace. Please come July 5th, 6th, and 7th to the school. We need you. We need another great performance. And Tim, the Unalaska Film Society has now got a great premiere coming. Guess what?
No, I couldn't possibly guess.
Sophie's Choice with Academy Award winning Meryl Streep. It's an excellent show, and for Film Society members only, to premiere the 7th. That's Thursday night.
That means you
7th
have
of
to
July.
belong to the society for this?
That's right, but
Okay.
it doesn't take much to join, and it's a great adventure. As well as for the public, Sunday the 10th.